You know, a couple hours ago, I put up a video of asking, will any upcoming movie be good? Not off to a great start. When a tech blogger discovers a time-altering device, he unleashes its power to rewrite the past and seek revenge against the ruthless corporate empire that destroyed his family, but his actions soon trigger a terrifying chain of events, propelling him into a pulse-pounding battle for survival where every second counts. That's the description Rotten Tomatoes is giving me, and it's fucking laughable. For different reasons than you're probably thinking. But yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm getting flashbacks to Assassin. But at least what I'll say about Assassin, at least there were actual action sequences in it. This description of him unleashing his power to seek revenge against a ruthless corporation. We'll get to that in a second. But no, obviously this is bad. I'm not going to do the thing where I spend 5 minutes beating around the bush before I actually tell you what I think of the movie, because I know I tend to do that a lot. I kind of keep putting up, but no, I'm just gonna get right into it. Everything about this movie is bad. Well, almost everything. Morgan Freeman is, of course, awesome. He's always good. He even made the Ben-Hur movie slightly tolerable, even though he looked ridiculous in dreadlocks. Hutcherson is usually pretty good. He has some points where he's not that great in this movie, especially at the end. He kind of starts to struggle, but I blame that on the directing and the shitty script he's given. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in Five Nights at Freddy's in a few weeks. I don't know if I'll see it opening weekend, but I'll definitely see it. The rest of the acting isn't terrible, like his girlfriend in this movie, Jayla, I think is her name. The actress isn't bad, she's just kind of bland, and again, I can't tell if that's the character, or I can't tell if it's the actress or just the writing of the character, because the character's also extremely bland, so I don't think there are very many actresses who could have brought much more to this role, because there's nothing to it. And that's a good way to describe this movie in full. There's nothing to this. This movie is marketed as an action movie. You know how many action sequences are in this movie? 0. No, I'm serious. I know people are gonna say the ending was technically an action sequence. No, it wasn't. There was no fucking action in this movie. The closest thing we got to an action sequence was him trying to get into a safe and him failing several times over by threatening the person with a gun who, secures it, and him failing over and over and doing that. I guess that counts as an action sequence to the people making this movie. Or maybe they just marketed it as an action movie because they didn't think people would want to see this if it wasn't, and I can't really blame them. You know what the best comparison I can think of with this movie? Because everything about this is a cliche nightmare. It reminded me heavily of Sweet Girl, that Netflix movie that came out back in 2021. If any of you saw that movie and or even remember it or saw my review of it, so if you've seen the movie, first of all, I'm sorry, but it's a very similar concept where he's seeking revenge on some big corporation because it produced the pill that killed his sister, and in the other case they had taken some life-saving treatment off the market for some reason. That wasn't really explained very well in that movie because that movie was just absolute trash. But the one thing I will give it over this movie was at least it had action sequences. They were terrible, but at least they were there. It was marketed as an action movie and was an action movie. The simple fact that I was going to say a praise, but that's not exactly the right word. The fact that has one thing, the only thing it has over this movie is that its marketing was at least semi-accurate. This is hard to talk about, which is why I'm kind of freezing and trying to come up with something, because and it's not like it's hard to talk about because it's complicated. This movie is stupid simple, and it's boring. That's the biggest problem with this movie, is it's fucking boring. And again, it's not just because of the lack of action. It's also a mystery. I'm looking at the genre here. I have the Rotten Tomatoes page pulled up because I wanted to use the description it gives because it's just so laughably off base. It's genres: action, mystery and thriller, and sci-fi. Now, the sci-fi, technically true, I guess. Action, not even close. Thriller, there are no thrills to be had whatsoever in this movie. And mystery, what mystery? There is absolutely nothing mysterious about this movie. He knows that this corporation produced the pill that killed his sister, and he knew that they knew that this could happen. It's all crap. And just the simple concept of this ring taking you back 57 seconds, it's an interesting idea on paper. But they do nothing with it. Actually, I'll give him one thing. The first thing he does is go to a casino, and of course he uses the ring. He figures out what's going to happen, uses the ring, and then inevitably wins big on a lot of on the roulette. And that's a pretty clever idea. But that's the only interesting way they use this ring. The rest of it's just, he fucks up and then goes back about a minute. And it's never, again, doing this with an action sequence would have been extremely cool. But again, there's no action to be had in this movie. There's nothing here to watch. The characters don't really have any chemistry. The actors are trying, but I don't believe the relationship between him and Jayla. I don't really feel the relationship. It's just not well written. This movie is very poorly written, and that's showing in the reviews here. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, do you realize how bad your movie has to be to get 0% on Rotten Tomatoes? Oh. Yeah, I really need to do that video at some point. But even the audience score is down at 47%. Nobody likes this. Okay, this is just another... Again, I said it reminded me heavily of Assassin. This is another bland-ass direct-to-DVD movie that they sunk... What was the budget? I think I saw it was like $8.3 million was the budget. They sunk just enough money to get some name recognition, so maybe they can sell some copies for this. And it did not go to theaters, at least not from what I can tell. It says here it got a limited theatrical release, but I looked it up on Box Office Mojo, and nothing came up. It wasn't just that it wasn't in the weekend numbers. I looked it up specifically. Nothing. Which, like I said, is a good way to describe this movie. It's just, there's nothing to this movie. There's not even any action. I would have forgiven this movie, even if it had some terrible action sequences. At least it would have had some action sequences. Like, how the fuck do you get away with marketing your movie as an action movie and not having any action? And it doesn't help. I can tell the action sequences probably would have been terrible anyways. The directing's pedestrian. The editing's a mess. And again, there's just nothing interesting here. He starts to, like, work for the guys he's trying to dig up dirt on. And again, this has been done before, and it's been done better. And this could be interesting if the people who made this movie were competent. Let's just put it, I'm just gonna put it bluntly. This was just an incompetent movie from top to bottom. The acting outside of Freeman and Hutcherson was just fine. Even Hutcherson's performance is just okay. The directing is not very interesting. The editing is terrible. The writing is awful. The dialogue is terrible. Nothing sounds natural, and that's part of the reason why the performances aren't very good, is because nothing they say has any weight to it. They don't feel like real people. This movie is one of the ones that feels like it was written by AI, because it's just the most cliche, generic crap that has dialogue that doesn't sound natural in the slightest and can't even make its basic premise interesting, even though it would be interesting on paper. That's why I watched this movie. And the same thing with Assassin. I liked the concept, but it was squandered by shitty writing. I'm giving 57 Seconds a D-, and that's only because of Morgan Freeman and Josh Hutcherson. So that's all I got, and the next movie I review better be better. So I'll see you all then. Bye.